Hello, I'm Jonah Schwartz.
And I'm Shane Woolley, and we're both members of Tufts TV News.
And we're here today to sort of interview President Anthony Monaco about his role in the administration and the different policies that Tufts is implementing to face problems on campus.
Yes, so we're here in We're here in Baloo today with Anthony Monaco to further the conversation between the student body and the administration and to open that dialogue even more than it already is.
Yeah, so President Monaco, or can we call you Tony?
Tony's fine.
Okay, let's get to it.
We're going to ask some rapid fire questions to start off with.
Okay.
So, 1, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Do you know the Hotline Bling?
Yes, by Drake.
Nice. Favorite movie?
Good Will Hunting.
Nice. What fruit are you?
Strawberry.
Strawberry.
Can I say why?
Why?
Yes.
They taste good, they're nutritious, and as a geneticist, they are packed with incredible amounts of DNA.
Good to know for DeWick and Carm.
Yes.
Speaking of DeWick and Carm, DeWick or Carm?
DeWick has the better pizza, Carm has the better salad bar.
Diplomatic answer. Okay, good.
I eat in both.
Nice. Okay. Do you eat in Hodgdon, and do you know Ida?
I don't know Ida. I've only heard of her by reputation, and I haven't yet met her, so I have to do that on my bucket list.
She is a fantastic,
wonderful
lady. 1-ply or 2-ply?
Well, that's a complex question. I prefer 1-ply. My wife 2-ply, so we go with 2-ply.
Nice.
Do they make 1.5-ply?
Probably.
Yeah.
Capitalism. If you could be a tree, what tree would you be?
Beech.
Beech.
I think it's cool that they keep their leaves through the winter.
That is true. And as a geneticist, it must be interesting as well.
Yeah.
Originals or prequels?
Prequels.
Do you sleep in a suit?
I sleep in something comfortable, somewhere between a business suit and my birthday suit.
Smart. And do you actually live in Gifford?
Yes, I do. It's in my contract that I must reside in the president's residence.
Nice. How is it?
Very nice. I don't use the whole space, obviously, mostly bedroom and kitchen, but the rest of it is used for university functions.
Awesome. Cool. Good to know. All right.
So a big part of this Tea with Tony episode is we're trying to understand your role in the administration, and we tried to crowdsource questions, and there seemed to be a lot of confusion about what you do. Some students thought that maybe you micromanage everything. Some students thought that you're more of a broader administrative role. So we're trying to really get an idea of your role. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, let's go over the last week. Monday and Tuesday I was in New York. I went down on Monday morning. I met with 16 alumni for lunch, and we talked about what's happening at the university. We had a huge alumni event in the evening where we had 3 professors speak TED-like talks. It was over 350 alumni and parents there, so I was there for that. I spoke, I went around and talked to people. The next morning I met with 2 alums. One was a couple to talk about financial aid and the gift they were going to make for the financial aid initiative. Then I came back to campus. The rest of the week it's meetings with my senior team, the senior leadership of the deans in what's called the Academic Council. I also met with some students regarding a new computer science active citizenship group which helps nonprofits with computer science programming problems. And I go to events such as the dance thing tonight. I went last night to 3P's Defying Gravity. Saturday night I'm going to go to the Dual NEC concert. So I try to go to student events and engage with students, have lunch. But I'm also responsible for faculty and other staff on campus. So I'm responsible in a way for all the activities, but there's only certain things that I can, quote, control from my office because the schools are quite independent and a lot of things go on in the schools and they don't have to, ask me for permission or to get approval for most of their day-to-day activity.
Okay. So what control do you have over policy at Tufts?
So the Academic Council, which is made up of the deans and all the vice presidents of the various administrative units, we control and approve university-wide policies. So if there's going to be a big change in a policy that is going to affect all faculty, students, or staff across the university, that comes to the Academic Council and we must approve that. Most of the time, myself and my senior team will preview those types of changes and agree where, before they come to Academic Council. But those are the types of things that we really have true responsibility for from an approval point of view. An example would be the changes to the sexual misconduct prevention and adjudication processes. That was done by a university-wide committee, and those changes have to be approved.
Okay. As to policy, do you keep up with the Tufts Daily and the issues that kind of revolve around campus?
Sure. You can see on my desk I have all the Tufts Dailies stacked up there. I read it every morning. I'm interested to hear what people are doing and also how it's being reported in the different opinion pieces.
Okay. And sort of like, is there anyone hierarchically over you, or is it?
Yes, everyone has a boss.
Okay.
So for me, it's the Board of Trustees, and in particular, the chairman of the board is who I report to.
Okay.
We speak, by email all the time, but formally we speak for like an hour once every 2 weeks, and I'll tell him what's going on. He gives me advice. He gives me guidance from his experience. Then the trustees meet 3 times a year, where I have to give a president's report. We have subcommittees, and things are approved by the trustees as well. So they are the governing body of what we call, myself and my senior team, are the management of the university.
Okay.
All right. So one of the issues that comes up a lot on campus is housing at the university.
Yes.
As you know, most juniors are required to go off campus that year due to the lottery policy. There aren't enough beds to fit everyone on campus, so they must go off campus and get housing in either Medford or Somerville. One of the issues with that often comes up in local papers is that drives the cost of rent up for other residents in the area. And then another issue is kind of just the state of the dorms in general. So I guess first question is, are there plans to increase the amount of housing at Tufts? And what is your role in making that come about?
Okay, I've asked Provost David Harris to chair a working group on a residential housing strategy. We've known the pressures for a long time. It was really an effort to think about 2 parts of it. One, working with Dean Jim Glazer and Dean Jim In-Q from engineering to think about what is the size of the undergraduate student body we want to have and what do we want to achieve in a residential housing strategy. That reflects whether you want it just to be undergraduates. Do you want graduate students mixed in? Do you want we have a few faculty mixed in, but not many. So that's and any programming you might want to achieve within the dorms. The other working group is working David plus Patricia Campbell, who's the executive vice president, to think about the business case, the renovations, where would we put new dorms? Could we add additions to existing dorms? We do have a process every summer where dorms are renovated, the common rooms, the bathrooms. Over the summer, you can't really gut and renovate an entire dorm, but they do get refreshed on a cycle basis. But we do agree that we need to think about new dorms, and this working group will hopefully report by the end of the academic year.
Are there any immediate plans in the foreseeable future?
Well, immediate in the sense that we have they're looking at options on whether you could take a couple existing dorms and add to them. And one idea was you could even make them disabled access friendly, because if you put an elevator in them, that would allow students in wheelchair, for example, to be able to live there, which is very limited right now on campus. And that would also allow us to renovate the rest of those dorms during that construction process. So that's one option that's being looked at, and the second is just let's build 1 or 2 more dorms, which would house so many students.
Are there any locations in mind for that?
Right now, they're just doing a master planning. So yes, we've looked at like 4 or 5 different places where you could possibly do it, and then there's a couple which are preferred because they don't disrupt green areas, and they might even create a nice quad-like structure to them if you had them facing all to a green lawn.
Does the administration keep an eye on local rent prices and engage with the landlords in the area?
We don't engage directly with the landlords, but the Somerville and Medford authorities are looking at the safety of the current housing situation. Our big concern also is with the Green Line extension hopefully coming to the Tufts campus. That's going to put pressure on the house prices and rent prices, which is going to make it more difficult for students living off campus. And that's another impetus for why we felt we needed to do the housing strategy now.
So to sort of date this episode, yesterday was the protest by the We Are the Three group. So we just wanted to ask some questions about sort of race on the Tufts campus and what the Tufts administration is doing to sort of make Tufts a more inclusive space for minority students. How does Tufts create a safe space for minority students?
Well, I think what you have to first think about is what we've learned from our research on stereotype bias. We have professors in our psychology department and elsewhere who study implicit stereotype and race bias. We all have it, and I think what I've heard from the students is they feel that both inside the classroom and outside the classroom and other activities, they're experiencing what are called microaggressions, which make them feel uncomfortable, which make them feel discriminated against. And sometimes that extends from subtle things right up to overt racism. This is what I learned when I came to campus in 2011. That was really the impetus for me to do the Diversity Council. As you know, that report came out in 2013, a range of recommendations. One of those recommendations, at least, was to think about how faculty inside the class could create an inclusive environment in the classroom. And currently we have training programs going on where faculty can learn more about how to achieve that. Outside the classroom, the student services are thinking about a pluralism approach where you're really celebrating multicultural aspects of inclusivity on the campus. But there's much, much more that we need to do. And I think the important thing to emphasize, it shouldn't be the marginalized students who have the onus on them to educate other students or faculty. I mean, it's the administration should really be facilitating that, and a lot of the programming and recommendations that came out of the Diversity Council, which we're now trying to implement, are to achieve that. In terms of safe spaces, the group of 6, many students feel that those are safe spaces that they can go to where inherently there's going to be less stereotype bias because they're with students from their own racial group or cultural group. But we really need to think about an end goal where both the classroom and other activities, sports teams, drama, community engagement, everything that happens on this campus should be a safe and inclusive environment for all students at Tufts. And that's really the goal of a lot of the work we're trying to do.
Okay. So our student body is less than 5% black, and that's faced a lot of criticism because the national average, I think, for the US is, I think, 13%. Is Tufts doing anything to sort of make the student body of Tufts sort of more accurately represent the world around us?
Yes, and one thing we have, let's just talk about some of the factors and what our peer schools are like. The schools that we considered our peers competitively trying to recruit students or similar undergraduate and graduate programs, the average is around 5 or 6%. We are below that. We realized that also in my first or second year that we needed to do better. That was one of the impetus to the financial aid initiative, where we took our own reserves and said we would match any gift over $100,000 into endowment. Why endowment? Because we want to build up a fund that's there for perpetuity to support financial aid. So part of the problem is not having enough financial aid compared to our competitive peer schools, and so we're working on that, and our alumni and donor base is really stepped up. We've raised almost $80 million in the last 4 years towards this goal, but we have a lot more to do, and we will emphasize this in the campaign. The other is the outreach to the right schools, which the admission office does. And particularly for graduate programs, they need to think about their pipeline programs. Where are they going to get undergraduates that are going to be interested in different graduate programs to attract them, make them more aware of Tufts as an option? So there's a lot of work going on. So those are the two factors, but I agree that we need to do better, and we hope that in the future we'd be able to achieve that.
Yeah, so is it more financial aid or is it more outreach, do you think?
I think at the moment for the undergraduate population, it's financial aid. For the graduate populations, it's the combination. But pipeline programs are definitely something we've heard during the Diversity Council deliberations were a big issue. For example, in the medical campus, different PhD programs as an example.
Okay. So there's been a lot of protests sort of in campuses around the country about sort of racial discrimination, just overt racism in schools. One example is Missouri University is having like a very big protest right now. What is Tufts doing to sort of like, I guess the question was already asked, but like, is that a sort of worry for the Tufts community? How is Tufts sort of facing overt racism?
Well, as I said, I think what we tried to do when I arrived is not have a reactive approach to such incidents. of course you react and you state very clearly that you're against racism and discrimination. I tried to have a proactive approach by getting faculty, students, and staff and some trustees together in a council which represented the entire university, all 3 campuses, and we worked through these issues and tried to put programs and recommendations in place. That said, I want to continue to listen to the emphasis from students on how their concerns have changed, because that report came out in 2013, and to again emphasize our commitment to creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment for education and research on our campuses. So you have that commitment from me as the president, and everyone on my team, and I know the deans and all the schools believe this is one of our key priorities going forward, and we need to do better. We need to keep working, but we need to do this in partnership with the students, faculty, and staff. We can't do it just as administrators alone.
Okay, so now we're going to sort of ask some more like jumbled up questions, but a lot of them are about the administration, your interactions with it. But also, we wanted to sort of get to know like how do the students and the administration sort of interact, and do students have a voice in the administration, and sort of what channels are there for that?
Sure. If you think about the governance structure, all the subcommittees of the trustees have a TCU Senate representative as well as a faculty representative, but those students get to go to those meetings, and they also make a presentation about an issue that's important to them at the February meeting. So that's one way. The second is most of the university-wide task force or committees that I've set up, we've always had student representation, whether that's the Sexual Misconduct Prevention, the Diversity Council, the Sustainability Council, anything that is certainly my senior team and I have started, we always have student representation. And we also, not only the few students who are on those committees, many of those processes had forums or outreach where we got, for example, in the Diversity Council, we got all the graduating seniors that wanted to come to a lunch and talk to us about their experiences around diversity and inclusion on this campus. We were able to do so. We took notes, we had breakout groups, and got reports back. So that information fed into the proceedings of the Diversity Council. So it's not only membership, it's also having open forums where we can get feedback from students.
Nice. Moving on to, oh yeah.
Well, just one other thought. I try to make myself accessible as much as I can, being at events, email, Facebook message, any way people want to communicate with me, I do respond personally. I do try to go and meet students to talk about their concerns. So I think that's another way that students have a voice. They know that we are open and accessible, and it's not that difficult to get a meeting, depending on my diary, but I do try to do that.
Yeah, this was very easy.
Yeah, this was very surprisingly so. Yeah.
Looking forward a little bit, where do you see Tufts in 10 years?
Well, let's talk about that in terms of Tufts' evolution. As a liberal arts college, when Jean Mayer was president, with a couple of professional schools attached, he really made it into a research university, adding the vet school, the nutrition school, and we saw engineering, the sciences, and other aspects of the professional schools grow their research operation. When John DiBiagio took over, he stabilized that because it really had pushed us financially, and also put the commitment of active citizenship in with the creation of what is now known as the Tisch College. When Larry Bacow took over, his big priority was to increase the quality of the students and the selectivity, as well as the quality of the faculty. The faculty we recruit now are all very research intensive, and the students that we get really want to do research with faculty, independent projects. That's grown even in my time from 30% of the student body up to over 50%. So I think over the next 10 years, we're going to see two things. One, we're going to have better facilities for people to do their scholarship and research, both at the teaching level and at the independent research level. And I'm also pushing very hard the concept of one Tufts, one university. Think about the big global challenges which we face in the environment, in areas of conflict, in health and disease. We have expertise at the different schools which we really can harness by cross-school collaboration and facilities which enhance that so that we can have a bigger impact as a university. So where do I see Tufts in 10 years? Great students, great faculty, but really working together as one university to think about how we can have impact on some of the big global challenges.
A while ago, there was a car in your driveway. Was that yours?
No, I drive a
Bugatti?
yes, the Bugatti is not mine. It's one of our trustee emeritus who parks it there. He had this arrangement with Larry, and I said, okay, you can park it there when he's here on campus. Yes, this has been a confusion for some time. It's not my car. I drive a Chrysler Town & Country family car.
Nice. Okay. Are those the ones with the tables in them, like built in?
No, they just have the two chairs swivel, so you can, and it can all fold down if you need to put skis in or something.
Oh, nice. That was a nice car. That was on Yik Yak.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah,
it's not mine.
Are you a big skier?
Not big. I mean, when my family is here, we like to go up to New Hampshire and ski during the winter break.
Nice. Go to the lodge.
No, I haven't been to the lodge. We do ski close to the lodge, though, Loon Mountain and that area.
Nice. Does your STEM background, obviously you're a very accomplished geneticist, does that affect your policy at Tufts and where you fit in with the university?
I think what it does is, given I have subject-specific expertise, let's say in all of biomedicine, when I go to talk to faculty at the vet school or the nutrition school or the medical school or the dental school, I can, understand the issues there quite rapidly and also at some depth in what they're trying to achieve on the science. But I think it's my experience when I was at Oxford in working across the university as Pro-Vice Chancellor, where I had to understand issues in the humanities, the social sciences, and the physical and maths and life sciences, that I really started to expand my own horizons. And I think that experience I've been able to also bring to this campus in thinking on how we can enhance the scholarship and research in the humanities and social sciences, how we can create facilities with the new Science and Engineering Center or the CLIC building to facilitate interactions between departments. So I think it's those two parts of my experience, that yes, subject expertise here, but a broader expertise that I had in my previous role, which provides me with the ability to affect positive change across the university.
Yeah, and the school is definitely expanding its STEM though, with the new building and stuff. Is there plans to also sort of match the humanities expansion?
Yeah, so one example of that is, I don't know how many, you're a biology major, right?
Yeah. So
you took your teaching labs in Barnum.
Yes.
Some high schools have better teaching labs than that, I would say. So, that building is no longer fit for science. So the impetus to build the Science and Engineering Center was, one, to create modern teaching labs, not only for biology, but for 3 other departments, and better wet labs, more modern labs that are conducive to modern science. So that gives us the opportunity to repurpose Barnum for other activities, particularly around humanities and social science. It hasn't been decided yet, but we know that building is no longer fit for science. So by creating a new science facility, which was needed, we have an opportunity to think about how we would want to repurpose that for other non-science activities. The same is true of the air rights building that we've been gifted by Bill and Joyce Cummings on top of the T line, which is going to be extended to Boston and College Ave. That cannot be a wet lab building. We've already agreed that. It's going to be office, classroom type of dry space. So that's another opportunity to think about what kind of activities, whether they be science, humanities, social science, computer science, what are the things that we might want to do in there? And I think that's another opportunity in the future.
Yeah, I know the Synthetic Biology Club was going to try to do mammalian cell culture in Barnum, and they were very scared about it.
It's time to invest in Tufts' future in this area.
What was the administration's motivation for switching to a policy of accepting undocumented students?
We felt that DACA and undocumented students have absolute rights to a further and higher education, and we felt that Tufts' commitment to values of access and opportunity to all students that made us make this decision that they should be welcome here and that we should provide financial aid for them if they require it.
Did you face any opposition?
We may have had a few alumni that disagreed. We responded to them, but it wasn't many. I think the issue is that they're not eligible for certain federal and other state financial aid packages. We have to make up that difference, but it's not, in the scheme of things, huge.
Yeah, I know there's a big student push for that.
Yes. No, when we listened to the students, we met with them, and we were happy to celebrate doing that with them.
So we're both freshmen, and it's coming upon sort of the time when people start submitting their regular decision Common Apps. And you know, I face back to the time when I was writing my Common App, and the question I really struggled with, and maybe you can answer, is, if you can, in 100 words, why Tufts?
Well, I spent 23 years abroad, so for me it was important to be at a university that had a truly international perspective, had a commitment to teaching and research, but also I was enamored by Tufts' unique constellation of schools. Not only the liberal arts college, but a great research university.
Wow, succinct.
Probably more eloquent than what I wrote.
I'm also in my 5th year, so
yeah. Okay.
Easier to answer in retrospect. Right?
Yeah,
For sure. Very, very, I think you'd get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it might be a little hard.
Yeah.
I heard it's competitive. Yeah. If you were to take one class at Tufts, which class would you take?
Well, actually, can I answer that with 2?
Yes.
So 2 things that I didn't ever take when I was in college. One was like a world history course. And I'm currently reading a lot about world history and enjoying that. And I think it would have been nice to have taken a proper course which had a faculty member who was an expert. The other area is cosmology. I'm very interested in what's going on in that area. We have real experts here I'd love to understand about expanding universes and bubble universes. And I read some stuff about it, but I don't really understand it because I've never had any formal higher education in it.
Any names? Professors?
Well, Professor Valenkin would be great to understand. I mean, he's the expert on expanding universes.
Nice. Cool. And then for like kind of a wrap-up question, again, this is going to be a little outdated when we publish, but how do you choose your Halloween costumes?
Very carefully.
Nice.
Yeah. Mostly I go in like everyone else does, to a big shop. I went to Party City in Meadow Glen Mall. They have a wall of choices, and it's a combination of which one I find interesting and what do they have in stock that I'm trying to get at the last minute, which I did this time. Gumby was luckily a great choice, and they had it in stock.
Gumby was great. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for taking your time out of your day.
Thank you for the tea.
Yeah, thank you.
And the special mugs.
Yeah, of course. Tea with Tony. President Anthony Monaco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.